About a year and a half ago, I reviewed the 2018 Power Rangers crossover entitled Shattered Grid, published by the award-winning Boom Studios to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the original Mighty Morphin TV series back in the early 90s. In the story, the Power Rangers from an alternate reality failed to break Rita Repulsa's mind control spell over Tommy Oliver. He would combine his Green Ranger power with that of the White Ranger to overthrow his Empress, kill Zordon, and steal the Morphers from numerous Ranger teams across the multiverse to grow stronger. His actions would cause the multi-dimensional energy source the Power Rangers draw their powers from, called the Morphin Grid, to fracture and threaten all of reality. The following year, Boom would publish a second Power Rangers crossover event called Necessary Evil that ran between mid-2019 until mid-2020. It had a few curious things going on with it. The main story, written by Ryan Peretz and Sina Grace, with artwork by Francesco Mortarino, Daniele Di Nuquello, Daniel Baylis, and Eduardo Francisco, essentially takes place during the second season of the Mighty Morphin show, acting as an alternate version of some of those events. In the comic, we witness Tommy become the White Ranger and understand what that burden of being the new leader does to him psychologically. We're provided a far more compelling explanation behind the departures of Jason Lee Scott, Trini Kwan, and Zach Taylor from the team, going much deeper than a simple peace conference, and their replacements find it difficult to fit in, feeling like nothing they do is enough to impress the other Rangers. Necessary Evil also depicts Lord Zed officially replacing Rita Repulsa as the primary antagonist of the Power Rangers. He would banish Rita, take command over her minions, Goldar, Finster, Squat, and Babu, and upgrade her putty patrollers, who now wear his insignia. Zed's scheming chips away at the Power Rangers methodically. The monsters he has created and sent to Earth prey upon each of their weaknesses. We see his massive Zord, Serpentera, destroy that deserted planet as seen in the show. He also orders an attack on Promethea Labs, and has his goons attempt to steal the Psycho Green Dagger Grace Sterling had been running experiments on. Thankfully, Grace seemingly has the dagger destroyed before the villains succeed in their mission. There were two other story arcs that bridge the gap between Shattered Grid and Necessary Evil, though, that I want to quickly recap here. The first was called Beyond the Grid, written by Marguerite Bennett and drawn by Simone DeMio, and the other was Forever Rangers, written by Ryan Parrott and illustrated mostly by Eleonora Carlini. In Beyond the Grid, after escaping reality's destruction at the hands of Lord Draken, the crew of the Promethea find themselves transported to a mysterious universe where there is no trace of the Morphin Grid. Detecting a distress signal coming from what they believe to be an escape pod, a team of Rangers, Tanya Sloan, the Yellow Zeo Ranger, Cam Watanabe, the Green Samurai Ranger, Kimberly Hart, the Pink Ranger Slayer, Mike Corbett, the Magna Defender, Andros, the Red Space Ranger, and Heckle, the Dark Dino Ranger, go out to investigate it. However, when they reach it and climb inside, they find it empty, and learn that the signal that they were following was bait, and a rogue, violet-colored Power Ranger, glitching out, teleports herself onto the bridge of the Promethea, and drains the power from the Psycho Green Dagger that was processing all of the ship's Morphin energy. The Rangers would pursue this rogue and understand her to be the Solar Ranger named Alarian, or Eri for short. Her and her girlfriend Remy would band up with the other Power Rangers to fight an evil dictator named the Praetor, who has formed an army of cultists called the Crimson Raiders. Eri and Remy's universe, the Void, has been slowly dying for thousands of years. The Praetor has slaughtered billions of life forms in it over countless generations, promising the ones that join him a better future, so he can take them to a better world. Illyrian's power comes from her unique Morphin device, the Solarix. It had been given to her by a stranger on her homeworld before he died. Her powers aren't like the other Rangers. Hers flicker, stutter, sometimes even resulting in pain. The power of the Solarix is so raw that it's never been able to work properly for Eri. It's because she's been alone without a team. Her Solarix has been disconnected from the rest of the Morphin grid. The Solarix was drawn to the energies of the other Power Rangers, and this same energy can be detected and traced by the Praetor. He would ambush the Promethea with his fleet of starships and demand that Illyrian and the exiles from lands beyond relinquish the Solarix so he can send them all home. They tell him to go piss up a rope, and Eri opens up the power of her Solarix to the other Rangers, supercharging their morphers with its energy and bonding them all to one another. Illyrian had told them that when she was younger, the Solarix was able to create constructs of light she played with. The Rangers reach out to the Solarix and use this same light energy to create Zords for themselves to engage the Praetor's armada. The Praetor begins speaking to all of them psychically, feeding on and targeting their self-doubt. This leaves the Rangers open to attack at first, but they help motivate each other to stay strong and shut the bastard out. When their Zords weaken, Illyrian is there to shield them with her immense solar power, forcing the Praetor and his Crimson Raiders to retreat. The Power Rangers believe the Solarix may be a piece of the Morphin grid, which is why it's so in tune with their energies. They would isolate an isotope found within the Solarix that vibrates with a special frequency and track its signature to a system 100,000 miles away. There, they find a planet called the Splintered Star, composed entirely of dormant Zeo crystals. Zeo crystals can absorb and store immense levels of power, but the ones on the planet are unrefined and, in the wrong hands, could be used as weapons strong enough to wipe out entire universes. Grid energy emanates from everything on the Splintered Star, and the Rangers believe the Void was once part of the Morphin grid, but something deliberately severed it from it and threw it outside reality. And this brings us to the Praetor. I think he's an intriguing enough villain. His motivation was not what I was expecting. He used to be a Morphin master, one of a group of psychics who believed they were the first to discover the Morphin grid. They devoted their entire lives to studying it. A great evil had threatened the universe when it had found a way to tap into the power of the grid using a Zeo crystal. The evil was stopped, but after the Morphin Masters discovered the source of the Zeo crystal, an entire planet of them, they cut its universe off from the rest of the Morphin grid and condemned it to a lonely death to prevent evil forces from ever finding it. The tool the Morphin Masters used to do this was the Solarix. That's why it can absorb and store so much Morphin energy. The Morphin Masters were beings who valued life, and one of them, the Praetor, would volunteer to remain in the universe to ensure it didn't have to die alone. He used the Solarix to create a team of Power Rangers to protect the universe until the rest of the Morphin Masters found a way to make it safe again. However, in time, he grew bitter. He believed there was no saving this universe, that it didn't deserve to return to the Morphin grid. He thought it wasn't worthy of his sacrifice, and grew angry at his Rangers for refusing to give in to death with dignity. He saw them as vermin and turned on them. He views all of the killing he's done as mercy. He's not a murderer, but a savior. In reality, he lost his faith when his Power Rangers did not. Realizing the Solarix as the gift of hope for this universe, Alarian would break it into multiple pieces and share it amongst her new friends, transforming them all into Solar Rangers, the sparks of light that pierce through the darkness. They once again manifest Zords and combine them to form the Solar Megazord to take on the Praetor. The Rangers are able to use the power of the Solarix to redirect the energy from the planet's Zeo crystals into a singular beam out of its magnetic North Pole that reopens the connection between the Void and the Morphin grid. It also sends the Praetor hurtling into another dimension. See ya later, fuckface. The Rangers all return to their own realities and give back the pieces of the Solarix to Eri so she can find new teammates to protect her universe. Eri gives one of the shards to Remy, turning her into the Yellow Solar Ranger. We see the two ladies hold hands and move in on each other for what could only be a kiss, but unfortunately, the comic doesn't actually pull the trigger with it and show it in full. Kind of a shame, but great representation nonetheless. I'm not mad. In Forever Rangers, the story goes into how Rita Repulsa acquired the Green Dragon coin she would use to turn Tommy Oliver into the Green Ranger, something never addressed in Season 1 of Mighty Morphin. During a battle against the Power Rangers in New York, she would open a portal to another dimension and travel to a planet she conquered thousands of years ago named Betrayal. There she would meet with her estranged daughter, the warrior queen Adriel, and the two would enter the hidden Temple of Repulsa and face off with its security measures. There's an awesome black lock on the door that Rita says will drive anyone mad who touches it, trying to decipher its combination. It can only be opened with magic. There's also a chained-up warrior named Montar that used to serve Rita, but was bonded to the temple and forced to guard it for all eternity after he betrayed her. Rita would reach the temple's inner sanctum and retrieve the Green Dragon coin from the hands of the previous Green Ranger, one of her former minions named Alarian, who had been tempted by its power, stole it, and was punished for his insolence. Pursuing Rita through the portal in New York before it closed, Jason and Trini would find themselves trapped on Betrayal, unable to make contact with Zordon and the command center. While evading the planet's scarred and tattooed troll-like natives, they realize they can hear each other's thoughts. They've also had their Ranger powers swapped due to some sort of strange phenomena called chromatic inversion. Jason and Trini would learn a lot about one another, walking in each other's shoes, so to speak. Reading each other's thoughts, they learn they have romantic feelings for one another and act on them, sharing a passionate kiss. I'm glad the Mighty Morphin franchise is branching out in these comics, allowing for more relationships outside of just Tommy and Kimberly. The other Rangers would find a way to teleport to Betrayal through all the interdimensional interference, and they all suffer from the same chromatic inversion with their suits and signature weapons. While gimmicky and only temporary, I think the idea makes for a neat visual, and it's a fun way for each of the teenagers to test their skills, prove they're more than just the spirits of their power coins that had been bestowed upon them. When Rita returns to her moon base, she would use a conjuring spell to summon a corporeal echo of her late mother, Lady Fienna. Her mother thinks she did it out of love and that she wanted to be guided back to the side of light, but in actuality, Rita wanted to sacrifice her life energy to unlock the Green Dragon Coin's power. What a terrible daughter. Alright, now we fast forward a bit and start Necessary Evil. Rita had drained Tommy's powers with her green candle, and his days as the Green Power Ranger were drawing to a close. Tommy started feeling left out, watching his friends run headlong into battle, while he was forced to sit on the sidelines. He was jealous. He had a burning desire to fight evil, but couldn't put himself in harm's way like the others could, without fear of his powers failing him and his friends. He felt utterly useless. While training at home, Jason would be confronted by the blue emissary of the Morphin Masters, whose purpose is to protect the Morphin grid. Jason had lost all of his memories of the battle against Lord Draken when all of reality had been restored, but the blue emissary makes him remember. The past, present, and future all flow into Jason's brain at once, and he relives encounters he had with Lord Draken that had been erased from time. Jason would have visions of life forms all across the universe that have been infected with Morphin energy after the grid had been shattered. The energy had infused with their bodies when they were caught between the cracks of the universe when it repaired itself, imbuing them with sudden and uncontrollable power. These empowered individuals pose a potential risk to alien civilizations everywhere, and the blue emissary would enlist Jason to find, relocate, and even contain them if necessary. He wants Jason to assemble a team of Black Ops Power Rangers. Jason chooses Zack and Trini to assist him, who also have their memories of Lord Draken brought back, and all three of them would be transported to a spaceship called the Spectrum by the Blue Emissary. They meet with his robotic assistant named XI, essentially his version of Alpha 5. The Rangers' Morphin energy is concealed by the Blue Emissary, so Zordon and the rest of their teammates can't detect them from the Earth. The Black Ops Rangers begin locating Empowered and bring them to a remote planet watched over by the Blue Emissary, called a Safe Haven. It becomes their new home. Any of the empowered life forms that are evil are locked inside containment canisters and placed on shelves within a special vault. The Rangers soon realize that their new mission will take them years to complete, so they lie to Zordon and tell him they have been selected among thousands for a peace conference in Switzerland, and that they will have to resign from the team. The Blue Emissary would travel to the command center separately to speak with Zordon as well. He offers him an alternate path, a new power source for Tommy Oliver. Zordon and Alpha 5 would secretly teleport Tommy to a hidden chamber housed beneath the command center. There, they've constructed a power transfer station. Tommy would be transported to the Tower of Light, where the White Ranger power is located. It's protected by its guardian, the enchanted sword, Saba, who doesn't believe Tommy is worthy enough to possess it, knowing there is another version of him, Lord Draken, who serves the forces of evil. Without warning, the baddest of all badass motherfuckers, Lord Zed, would enter the Tower of Light. He explains to Tommy that he had drained his Green Ranger energy deliberately so that Zordon would seek a way to repower him. Zed simply watched and waited until he could be led to the Tower of Light's location. The villain wants Tommy to take the White Ranger power. He wants him to corrupt it and fight by his side. Zed grabs hold of Saba and turns him into a wicked dark blade and offers it to the young hero. Tommy refuses to join up with Zed. Even without any Ranger powers at his disposal, he still fights tooth and nail against him, risking his life to protect the White Ranger power and ensure it doesn't fall into this ugly, muscly meanie's hands. Tommy would pass out during the battle, and when he awakens, he learns that Zed was never there. It was a trial constructed by Saba to see if Tommy was truly worthy to wield the white light of goodness, one of the strongest connections there is to the Morphin grid. Later in the comic, Tommy is introduced to the rest of the Power Rangers as the new White Ranger in a sequence that has been beautifully recreated from the one seen in the show. Tommy would use an artifact known as the Sword of Light to transfer the powers of Jason, Trini, and Zack into 3 replacement Rangers, new students at Angel Grove named Rocky DeSantos, Aisha Campbell, and Adam Park, who became the Red, Yellow, and Black Rangers, respectively. For those of you wondering, the reason the actors for Jason, Trini, and Zack had left the TV series in the 90s was because of their long hours, low pay, and no union recognition. The Power Rangers franchise was raking in millions upon millions of dollars in merchandise sales, but apparently could only afford to pay its stars in peanuts. Anywho, Tommy would be sour towards Jason for leaving the team. He believed he was scared that he was ditching the rest of them when they needed him most. Tommy was also confused that Jason put a measly peace conference above the planetary danger that is Lord Zed, but little did he know Jason, Trini, and Zack would be continuing their superhero mission in outer space, being given the power of Omega Rangers by the Blue Emissary, drawing from the elements of fire, earth, and air. Omega Rangers are an ancient form of Power Ranger that have lain dormant for centuries. The appearance of their Zords is made to reflect ancient aliens, which is pretty sweet. The 4th Omega Ranger, colored sky blue, is an extraterrestrial teenager named Kia. She was one of the empowered rescued by the others when a group of zealots on her home planet went after her for being a witch when her Morphin grid abilities materialized. So the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers have split up. Tommy leads the Mighty Morphin team on Earth, and Jason leads his Omega Rangers in space. I wonder if they're gonna cross paths. The Omega Rangers would go to the planet Zernox 2, where they battle a hefty empowered named Garrison Vox. The heroes are quickly disposed of and are only able to achieve victory after Kia fights fire with fire, unleashing her augmented Morphin grid abilities on him. The Omega Rangers find that the empowered targets they have been tracking down seem to be growing stronger and stronger. Jason and Trini would find themselves back on Breel for the next phase of their mission. The Omega Rangers pose as guests at a villain party hosted by Queen Adriel. There's a lot of Easter eggs to be found here, various baddies from the franchise visible. Adriel had captured the one blessed with Morphin grid energy in that part of the universe, named Cavitus. Using him as a weapon, she intimidates her patrons, threatening to destroy their ships and even home planets unless they bow to her leadership. The Omega Rangers would rescue Cavitus, but he breaks Adriel's neck during his escape, which is why he ends up being imprisoned in Safe Haven's vault. Can't have that. Lord Zed would hire a deadly canine bounty hunter named Dane to eliminate the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He studies footage of their combat techniques, which he finds ridiculous, as Zed's minions provide him with a delectable feast. The Rangers' first encounter with Dane does not go smoothly. He would activate an EMP to disarm most of their weapons. The Vile Hound makes use of dual plasma sabers, and his fighting methods are rather dirty. He breaks Kimberly's thumb so she can't aim her bow, covers Rocky's helmet with this black gunk so he can't see out of it, and Tommy would be rendered unconscious when he's separated from the rest of his squad. Lord Zed would be furious when he found out that Dane let the White Ranger live, but Dane's plan was to break him so the Rangers would be a man down when next they meet. When they do, Dane nearly destroys the Thunder Megazord when he grows giant-sized. The Omega Rangers would teleport themselves to the Earth and save the mighty Morphin Rangers, easily defeating Dane with their vast abilities the Pooch was nowhere near prepared for. The Omega Rangers don't speak a single word to their friends before departing, revealing their identities could not only endanger their mission but compromise the timeline. It was rude of them, sure, but necessary. Jason tells the Blue Emissary that he wants to continue with the Omega Rangers' mission, but he can only do so when he knows his friends on Earth will be safe, so he convinces the Blue Emissary to let him and the other Omega Rangers directly assault Lord Zed's stronghold on the moon. Crazy. Zed almost expects them to be there. He's aware of the Omega Rangers, and that they've been imprisoning evil beings all across the universe, but he asks the Ranger if he's ready to take on true evil. Jason would go head-to-head with Lord Zed, an encounter we never got to witness in the TV show, to my knowledge. The Zedmeister overwhelms the boy, but is ultimately vanquished when the rest of the Omega Rangers enter the throne room, and Zed is squashed with the fist of Jason's Zord. Zed would then be sealed in a containment canister to be taken to Safe Haven's vault and placed alongside the other intergalactic evildoers. The mighty Morphin Power Rangers would be tipped off by Zordon and transport themselves to the moon. I love how Billy runs over, fascinated by the ancient technology of the Omega Rangers' containment canisters. Having seen what Tommy Oliver turns into in another reality when she was linked up with Jason's mind on Betrayal, Kia would go to attack Tommy, but thankfully is held back. Zordon would speak with the Red Omega Ranger and thank him for his assistance against Lord Zed, but also chastise him at the same time because he robbed his team of their victory and the growth they would have experienced as warriors. He feels they are now grossly unprepared for the next threat that will endanger the Earth, so thank you, but fuck you. Before leaving the planet and returning to the Spectrum, Jason would have an ambiguous heart-to-heart with Tommy. Tommy thanks him for his help and opens up about his frustrations in his role as leader. He feels the guy before him left without offering him any firm guidance. Jason tells him that leading never gets easier and that this friend of his probably thought he could handle himself on his own. Despite the nice pep talk, Tommy thinks otherwise. When the Omega Rangers get back to Safe Haven, Kia would end up murdering the Blue Emissary on top of the vault. She feels they are no longer on the same side. She wants to ensure Tommy will never become Lord Draken. If there's even the slightest chance that Draken isn't a single anomaly in the multiverse, she will do everything she can to protect it from him, even wiping out the other Power Rangers if necessary. Now, Kia's heel turn here does feel a bit sudden. Some may even use the word contrived to describe it. Her motivations seem to do a complete 180, but I want you to realize that she was on rocky ground to begin with when she started out as an Omega Ranger. When her Morphin Grid abilities first appeared, they had caused a surge of electricity to come out of her body, which turned her entire family to ash. She knows what the actions of Lord Draken can result in firsthand, and stopping that from happening to anyone else is something she's willing to cross lines for. Being as close as she was to a theoretical copy of Draken didn't help. It caused her nightmare to resurface. It struck a sensitive chord. The Blue Emissary also admitted to her that he was the one who provided Tommy with the means of possessing the power of the white light, allowing him to grow stronger. She views the Blue Emissary's ideals as inconsistent. Kia would release Garrison Vox, Cavitus, Dane, and other corrupt empowered out of their containment canisters and form a group of chosen ones she calls the Anointed that will prevent the Morphin grid from ever shattering again and become its new guardians, replacing the Power Rangers. Kia tells Dane that Safe Haven is more than just a remote planet the Blue Emissary chose to call home. It's the original location of the Morphin Masters, and she believes it's holding a powerful million-year-old secret she wants him to sniff out and find. This secret is revealed to be the Master Arc, an interdimensional gateway that can access almost any location across space and time, even the Morphin grid. It's not long before the other Omega Rangers learn of Kia's betrayal. Before they are able to morph, Kia blindsides Jason with a devastating punch using grid energy. The heroes are able to regroup on the spectrum and flee to Earth, where Jason's injuries can be treated at the command center. Trini and Zack would tell Zordon as much as they can about where they were and what they were doing without unraveling all of space and time. He reassures them that he's not angry and understands what it's like bearing the weight of the responsibility of knowledge. He will help them in any way he can. These words bring tears to Trini's and Zack's eyes. They've missed him. Immediately, both Power Rangers teams distrust each other. The mighty Morphin Rangers especially are pissed off for being lied to. When Jason is healed, he would have a sparring session with Tommy, and the emotions of both teens get the better of them. I found this part of the story to be incredibly frustrating and unreasonable. I don't think Tommy has any right to be angry. Jason had universe-altering problems thrown on his plate. He had no other choice but to keep from the rest of them. If Tommy had been in his shoes, if any of the other Rangers had been in his shoes, they'd have done the exact same thing. They all love being superheroes, are addicted to all the good they can do as much as they try to deny it. Look at what Tommy was going through when his Green Ranger powers were failing. Don't tell me that under the same circumstances, none of them would have kept things top secret too. If anything, I think they're just jealous. They want to be Omega Rangers too. Look at how easily they wiped the floor with Dane and Lord Zed. Who wouldn't want that much power? Feeling a lack of respect from the rest of their team, Rocky, Aisha, and Adam travel with Trini and Zack to Safe Haven, but the Spectrum is destroyed by Cavitus, and the Rangers are forced to play hide-and-seek with him inside an asteroid field. It would have been curtains for them too, if not for Billy having Grace of Promethea Labs call in Kimberly, the Ranger Slayer, who portals into this reality with her Gravesword and saves them. Jason, Tommy, Kim, and Billy transport themselves to Safe Haven and confront Kia, who had convinced some of the other empowered living on the planet to join up with her too and create a universe of peace. She would tell the Power Rangers that they may have saved the universe countless times, but that their victories do not absolve them of the damage they have caused as well. She doesn't care if this version of Tommy Oliver is a good one. There's a chance he can go bad at some point down the line, and she has to stop that from happening. This fallen ranger is starting to sound delusional. Bitch even stole the Blue Emissary's cape. The Omega and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers combine their numbers and battle Kia and her Anointed on Safe Haven. It's an awesome visual seeing all of them together side by side. There's a rad moment when Tommy's White Tiger Zord fuses with Jason's Red Omega Zord to form the Red Tiger Zord to combat a supersized Dane, as well as Kia's Omega Zord being piloted by Garrison Vox. The Ranger Slayer and XI would infiltrate the hidden tunnels beneath the vault and reach the Master Arc, so Kimberly can travel to another dimension and retrieve something that can absorb a Morphin energy. This something is the Solarix, in the possession of interstellar lovebirds Valerian and Remy, the Solar Rangers, who use it to sever Kia and her anointed from the Morphin grid permanently. Trini would have a final confrontation with her former friend on top of the vault. It's Omega Ranger versus Omega Ranger. Using her hammer, Trini is able to shatter Kia's morpher so she can no longer access that power as well. Kia and Garrison Vox would be captured. The rest of the Anointed are given a fresh slate by the Rangers, can choose to go back to their own planets or stay on Safe Haven and help rebuild with the others. They are still welcome to make the planet their new home, and the Ranger Slayer and Solar Rangers return to their respective universes. Like a coward, Dane had fucked off during the final battle. Returning the favor for freeing him earlier, we see him free Lord Zed from his containment canister. On the moon, Zed would forge a new staff for himself. His last one broke and was stolen by Goldar, Finster, Babu, and Squat, who have been hiding out on the outskirts of Angel Grove, and have been trying to repair it to claim its power for themselves. Zed promises to get his revenge against the Power Rangers. However, it may have to wait, as he notices something interesting rocketing towards the Earth. Shockingly, it's Lord Draken, who has somehow survived the events of Shattered Grid, and warns the other Rangers that something else is on its way. Reading these Power Rangers comics by Boom Studios has been an absolute blast. Some of the most fun I've had working on this channel. They've reminded me why I fell in love with Power Rangers as a child all those years ago. Honestly, these are some of the best licensed comic books I've ever read. This is coming from someone who is only really familiar with the first several Power Rangers shows leading into the early 2000s. I don't know anything about the newer series and their characters, but I assume these Boom storylines are some of the strongest in the entire franchise. They'd have to be. What I like so much about the comics is how palatable it makes the source material for audiences of all ages. The villains aren't dropping F-bombs left and right, though that would be hilarious, but the tone of everything is much more adult-oriented, emotionally charged, and has a grandness to its scale the limited budgets of the TV series just couldn't accomplish by themselves. As entertaining and charming as the TV shows are as well, I can only tolerate them for so long. Their level of cheese makes the 1960s Batman look like Schindler's List by comparison. I liked Necessary Evil a lot, but I think it suffers a little from simply being a middle chunk of a much grander overarching narrative. Shattered Grid was open-ended and allowed for more crossovers to follow, but it also felt self-contained too. Here, Necessary Evil, while interesting, seems to be setting up something else, something bigger. Personally, I was also disappointed with how little Lord Zed was featured in the story. He's my favorite Power Rangers villain, and I was hoping he'd have a much larger role than he did. Maybe he will in the next crossover, Unlimited Power. I'll be doing a review on it in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. Let me know what you thought of Necessary Evil down in the comments section below. If you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications, and if you'd like to fast track any future video topics, you can do so by nominating them over on Patreon. Joining any of my tiers will also give you early access to my videos. I will see you all in the next one. Take care and stay nerdy.